Let's take a quick look and see how the Dutch disease works in a very simple labor market. So we have three sectors we can imagine in the economy. That is, we have the oil sector, which has a labor demand curve for not very much labor, fairly inelastic that's there. We have a fairly elastic labor demand curve for the export sector. And then we have a labor demand curve for the non-traded goods sector. And we add up all those three labor demands and we get the total labor demand, and together with total labor supply, that gives us the equilibrium wage. So we might have an equilibrium wage given by this dotted line. Then we look back on the equilibrium wage and see how much labor, remember we're measuring labor here on the x-axis, so we see how much labor would be allocated to each one of the sectors. So at this wage W star, we can see that this much labor looks like about the same amount for labor demand for the export sector as well as the oil sector, and this much labor is being used in the non-traded goods sector. And all of them add up to the full amount of labor. It's not really drawn to scale, but you get the idea. Now let's see what happens when something changes. That is, when we go to a situation where we have an export boom, so labor demand in the non-traded goods sector shifts out. So the government collects a lot of oil revenue and increases construction in the capital city, suppose. So that increases, we might imagine a very small increase in labor demand in the oil sector. Let's just assume there's no change, it's negligible. And the labor demand in the export sector is set by the prices, international prices of exported goods. So the oil boom doesn't change that, we'll assume for now. Those international prices stay the same, so the profitability of the export sector is staying the same. So we have labor demand increases in the non-traded goods sector. That means that overall labor demand shifts out. That means we now have an increase in the wage. So the wage used to be here, W1. The wage now goes up to W2. And as you can see, labor in the export sector, which used to be this much, now declines to this much. So there's a decrease in labor that is used in the export sector. And that's basically the Dutch disease in a nutshell.